want to talk about Whoopi Goldberg because I got so many texts this week because she attacked me the week before.
Sure.
So everybody was like, "Oh, Bill, I get you're enjoying the karma." First of all, I'm going to talk about this at the end of my show next week, teaser. But there is no thing as karma, okay? Get over that.
Political debates have increasingly become arenas where logic and reason clash with entrenched ideologies. Recently, Bill Maher stepped into the spotlight, countering Whoopi Goldberg's arguments with his trademark sharp wit and blunt honesty. This wasn't just another celebrity spat, it was a pointed reminder of how easily certain narratives can fall apart under scrutiny.
And that part of our sorry racial history in this country is that the point of view from a black person is often going to be very different and sometimes shocking.
Maher has built his reputation by challenging both sides of the political spectrum, but his recent exchange with Whoopi Goldberg marked a new intensity, as Whoopi leaned on the familiar progressive talking points often heard on The View. Maher countered with sharp facts and pointed out inconsistencies that left her on the defensive. The debate highlighted just how disconnected elite liberal viewpoints can be from the real-life concerns of everyday Americans. I saw it myself.
I watch your show all the time, so I know that you're a comic, but you basically go after Trump and Biden. Both of them. And a lot of people are not happy with you about that. I'm
not equally.
Well, not equally, because you know that Trump is doing more dangerous.
Of course. I mean, I don't think anybody was more out front on that danger than I was.
Before diving into the debate itself, it's important to understand the key players. Whoopi Goldberg, a staunch advocate of liberal policies, often dismisses criticism of the left as mere right-wing propaganda. Bill Maher, by contrast, isn't a conservative. He's a traditional liberal who resists being boxed in by rigid ideological labels. This stark contrast set the stage for a truly compelling showdown.
Talking about how he was never going to give up power. Long ago, when everybody was laughing at me and said, "You smoke too much pot," and I said, "I smoke just the right amount of pot," because finally, I was using the term slow-moving coup before he was elected the first time.
That's right.
I said, this guy is never going to concede power. It's impossible to imagine him going, "Oh, I lost."
Confrontation kicked off when Whoopi downplayed concerns about crime, the economy, and the struggles of working-class Americans. Maher responded swiftly, emphasizing that issues like inflation and public safety had a direct, tangible impact on people's lives, far more than symbolic gestures or performative activism. Instead of engaging with his arguments head-on, Whoopi sidestepped the core of the discussion, offering a vague response that skirted the real issues. Rather than addressing Maher's facts, she leaned on outdated economic talking points that felt increasingly out of touch with everyday reality.
Anything against Biden, because I feel that, not that I have so much power, and you have some more than I do, obviously, but
Oh, I don't know about that.
are you afraid that you might, influence the people who are on the fence?
I think you lose all credit.
Never one to let a weak argument slide, Maher zeroed in on a key contradiction in Whoopi's stance. He pointed out that progressive elites, particularly white liberals, often claim to advocate for marginalized communities, yet routinely overlook the issues those communities actually prioritize. Polls consistently show that Black and Hispanic voters are more concerned with economic stability and public safety than with the ideological battles dominating social media. Whoopi's refusal to acknowledge this disconnect only served to further expose the fragility of her argument.
My bond with my audience has always been, I don't pull a punch.
Yeah.
My bond with my audience is, you're not going to like everything I say,
Yeah.
but I'm saying what I really think is true.
Right.
That's Biden just presents as old. It's not really fair.
No.
Because he's almost the same age. Trump is almost the same age as him.
Turning point came when Maher shifted the conversation to political hypocrisy. He raised the issue of Hunter Biden, highlighting how Democrats who often champion accountability tend to fall silent when one of their own is involved in controversy. Whoopi, visibly uncomfortable, tried to minimize Biden's actions, suggesting the situation was being exaggerated. But Maher wasn't about to let it slide. He pressed on, refusing to let her evade the double standard.
It doesn't present that way. You look at somebody right away, you can kind of just sum them up. I mean, we are not young, but we don't present as old.
Yeah.
Biden does. I saw him yesterday making that speech. I mean, I'm sorry, he's Gaddafi-like.
But his brain is good. He's still great.
Well, here's what I said. Like, when I came back after the strike in September, I said, he should get out.
Maher reminded the audience of President Biden's own words, that no one is above the law, just before pointing out the irony of him pardoning his own son. This glaring double standard, Maher argued, is exactly why so many Americans feel disillusioned with the political system. If the rules only apply when it's politically convenient, then they aren't really rules at all. Whoopi's defense began to unravel, unable to withstand the weight of Maher's pointed.
A conservative once said to me, what you guys in the liberal side of it don't get about Donald Trump is we don't like him either.
Yeah.
It's just that in this country, it's binary. I mean, gender may not be binary, but politics is. You only get two choices. And the stuff that they are afraid of, they see Donald Trump as a bulwark again.
As the discussion grew more heated, Maher turned his focus to the media's influence on public perception. He criticized mainstream outlets for downplaying or outright suppressing the Hunter Biden story in the lead-up to the election, accusing them of valuing narrative control over journalistic integrity. Rather than confronting the evidence Maher laid out, Whoopi brushed off his claims, dismissing them as yet another right-wing conspiracy theory.
Hunter Biden story before the election because they were like, we can't risk having the election thrown to Trump. We'll tell them after the
Armed with facts, Maher reminded Whoopi that even prominent left-leaning journalists had acknowledged the Hunter Biden story was deliberately suppressed for political purposes. He argued that this is the real danger of woke ideology, not a pursuit of truth or justice, but a relentless effort to control the narrative. Once again, Whoopi had no substantial rebuttal and opted to change the subject rather than engage with the uncomfortable reality Maher presented.
her over to the White House, like in 2013, to hint, hey, spend more time with the grandkids. That would not be a good idea, Ruth. And she didn't take the hint, and she was not in good health, and she stayed too long, and she ruined her legacy and got the Supreme Court now to be a pretty right-wing organization. He said Biden shouldn't do that, but ego. He's Dracula. He has crossed oceans of time to be here, and he's not going to give it up.
The conversation soon broadened as Maher took aim at the progressive movement itself, criticizing it for creating an environment where questioning its beliefs is treated as an act of hostility. He noted that working-class Americans, the very group progressives claim to champion, are increasingly rejecting the extreme narratives promoted by media elites. Rather than engaging with this reality, Whoopi continued to brush off legitimate concerns as mere right-wing talking points. Maher then shifted the focus to the changing political landscape, explaining how the Democratic Party's sharp move to the left has alienated key voter groups, including Black and Hispanic Americans. Polls consistently show that these communities tend to be more patriotic, more supportive of law enforcement, and less accepting of unchecked illegal immigration and white progressives. Yet Democrats continue to prioritize the demands of elite activists over the real, everyday concerns of the voters they say they represent.
Is a lot closer to the home. It's like my kid is coming home from school and they're not allowed to tell me if they're transitioning. The school is going to take the side of the kid over the parent. Stuff like that. There is a lot of crazy stuff on the left. This book, there's stuff that each side is going to like and probably stuff they're not going to like so much.
The debate, Whoopi Goldberg found herself struggling to defend her positions when confronted with Maher's fact-based arguments. Instead of directly addressing the points, she repeatedly resorted to vague talking points, emotional appeals, and deflection. This is a recurring issue for many figures within the woke movement, whose narratives often rely more on ideological commitment than on objective reality. A pivotal moment occurred when Maher pressed Whoopi on the real concerns of Black and Hispanic Americans. Rather than acknowledging that these communities prioritize economic stability and public safety over progressive activism, Whoopi attempted to steer the conversation to unrelated issues. This exposed a fundamental weakness in woke politics, the inability to confront uncomfortable truths when ideological beliefs are challenged. Figures like Whoopi often fall back on changing the subject rather than engaging with the core argument.
The term woke, and you said that woke is what was sort of ruining everything, and I know that you're...
No, I didn't say ruining everything. I said that's why Trump could get reelected.
That's why Trump could get reelected. So the term woke has been, in my view, co-opted by the right and weaponized and bashed. And so I was surprised to hear you use the term because historically, as you know, because I think you're quite brilliant, that woke is a word used by the Black community to note that we must be aware of social injustice.
Their arguments effectively dismantled, Whoopi resorted to playing the victim. She accused Maher of misrepresenting her views and making her look bad. However, Maher wasn't distorting anything. He was simply holding up a mirror, and Whoopi didn't like what she saw. Faced with hard facts, she had no legitimate response.
I'm not going to defend Donald Trump ever, but I would never say that we should put the swastika on the cap, because I think you can hate Donald Trump. You can't hate everybody who likes him. It's half the country. I don't want to live in that country. I don't want to live in the country where I hate half the country, and I don't hate half the country.
How dare you disagree with me?
First takedown was especially impactful because it didn't come from a conservative. As a lifelong liberal, Maher holds the credibility to challenge the excesses of the progressive movement. His refusal to conform to ideological purity tests has made him an outsider in certain circles, but it has also earned him the respect of those who prioritize critical thinking and honest debate.
The answer to the Donald Trump situation is, what's going to get him elected is this woke stuff that a lot of people in this country just don't go for.
Well, one thing that I break with is that you can disagree on candidates, but when one talks about literally upending the entire democracy, that's my heart out.
The most devastating aspect of Maher's critique was that he didn't need to raise his voice. With calm precision, he dismantled Whoopi's arguments one by one, leaving her with no solid ground to stand on. Whoopi, visibly shaken, could only fall back on vague rebuttals that did nothing to restore her credibility. Ultimately, this debate transcended Whoopi Goldberg herself. It mirrored a larger shift in American politics, where more and more people are beginning to see through the double standards and contradictions within the woke movement. Maher, once a liberal icon, has now become one of its fiercest critics, not because he changed, but because the movement abandoned its core principles.
And originally that was absolutely a great thing. Alert to injustice, who's not for that? But words do migrate. Now, I'll use any term you want, because maybe that is a word that's triggering, and so let's not use that word. I don't want to call it the super far left, but don't tell me the left had.
This debate with Whoopi Goldberg highlights a deeper divide within liberalism. Maher represents an older generation of liberals who prioritize free speech, rational debate, and a focus on practical issues. In contrast, the woke movement has increasingly centered on ideological purity, cancel culture, and social activism, often at the expense of real problem solving. This shift has left many traditional liberals feeling alienated from the movement they once supported. Maher's critique underscores how the Democratic Party has veered so far left that it frequently overlooks the concerns of everyday Americans. Issues like inflation, crime, and education matter more to the average voter than debates over gender pronouns or microaggressions. Yet, woke activists continue to dominate public discourse, pushing an agenda that many liberals see as disconnected from the realities people face. Maher's willingness to call out these contradictions makes him one of the few mainstream voices unafraid to challenge the excesses of progressive ideology.